Hello, class. Today I wanted to talk about a very good application of multiplying decimals. This is something that you're going to see a lot, even especially if you like to eat like I do. If you end up pipping, this is going to be helpful. This is going to be very helpful also for those that are going to auto technicians. You're going to need to be able to calculate bills and things like that. So we're going to talk a little bit about markup. Now, this is an idea of if you buy something and you sell it to somebody else, you're going to mark it up a little bit. And you're going to see markup whenever you buy replacement parts for a customer, right? Now, we're going to talk about low markups, but you can see markups as high as 200 or 300% depending on the part. That is to cover up your risk. You're buying a part, the owner may try to change their mind or something like that. So you're taking on some risk by buying and holding these parts in stock. So how do you calculate this markup? So we're going to start with a small markup, 75% markup on a $150 part. So the $150 is the cost for you as a shop owner. You're now a shop owner. Congratulations, you made it. So if we have 75% markup, how do we find of 150? So we're asking, what is 75% of 150? And in math, whenever we see the word of, that's a key word for multiplying. So in this particular case, if I can convert this to a decimal, and I'm saying percent, right? I want you to think about that for a sec here. I want to think about percent, right? Now we see the word cent all the time. Cent, we talk about centuries, which is 100 years, or let's talk money, right? A cent is 100 cents is $1. So if we're talking per 100, we could say 75 out of 100, or we could put a decimal place, 2 decimal places. So 75% is also 0.75. We said of is multiplying, so we 0.75 times 150. And when I multiply decimals, is I like to forget that the decimals are there. What does that mean? I'm going to say this is going to look like 75 times 15. We'll put the 0 on the end here. We'll put that 0 in last. So I'm going to do 75 times 5. That's our first case. So we do 5 times 5. That's 25. Carry the 2, right? 5 times 5 is 25. So we have 7 times 5. That's going to be 35 plus 2 is 375. And then 75 times 1, that's our next one. 75 times 1, that's easy math. Now, really, because of where this is not just 1, this is actually 10. So I want to add a 0 here. And then I'm going to do 75 times 1. Now, you'll notice that I ran out of space here. So I'm going to do all this math. I'm just going to move it up here and say, okay, I've got 375 plus 750. I'm going to add those two together. That's going to be 5. 7 plus 5 is 12. Carry the 1. 3 plus 1, that's 4, plus 7 is 11. All right, and you'll notice I forgot about the 0. I'll put that 0 back in. Now that number is way too big, right? If I sold you a $150 part for $11,000, you would take your business somewhere else, right? We need to put that decimal back in. Now the decimal that we left out is here. In this particular case, we've got 2 decimal places. So when we have 2 decimal places, that means we're going to put our decimal place right here. So this is our markup. Now, that is what the question asked for, and you'd be fine stopping there. But the reality is, if I put markup on a customer's bill, they will not pay it, right? They're going to ask, what is this markup? Why is it here? So instead of doing that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add it to my original price. So to get the total cost for the customer, what we're going to write on their invoice, the total cost on their invoice is going to be that $150 plus the $112.50. So the total cost of doing business, or what we put on their quote, their invoice. Right, adding that up, we've got 0 plus 2 is 2, 5 plus 1 is 6, 1 plus 1 is 2, so that's $262.50. That's the total cost. And that's how we would get the markup for one of those. All right, now let's take a look at the next step. The next step would be calculating an environmental fee on a $320 repair. Now, environmental fee is something that's tacked on, that's a requirement from our local government to cover the cost of, well, working on automobiles creates a lot of waste, right? And you take fluid out of a car, it's gotta be disposed of properly. So there's a little environmental fee on top. Now 10% would be pretty high for this, but this is something that we would put on the invoice, and this would be just showing, hey, well, I don't have control of that. It's like sales tax. I got to charge you this, it's okay. So we're going to calculate what this $320 repair would be with 10%. Now we're saying, what is 10% of $320? And mathematically, we could say, okay, 10% is 0.10. Do we really need that 0? Yeah, you're clever too, right? We don't really need that 0. So I'm going to nix that 0 there. I'm going to say it's just 0.1 times 320. Now I can do this math really easily. I could write it out like this. That's not really necessary if I'm multiplying by 1. If I'm multiplying by 1, I've got 320 times 1, ignoring the decimal for now. I just have 320. Now, clearly that's not going to be the cost. If I said, okay, $300 repair, also $320 for that, that doesn't seem right. I need to take that decimal and put it back in. In this particular case, I've got 1 decimal place. Right? I've got 1 digit that's after my decimal, so that's 1 decimal place. I'm going to put 1 decimal place in my answer here. So I would put this right here. So I've got the same number of decimal places. So the environmental fee that's going to be added to their bill is $32. Right? And that's the nice thing about multiplying and dividing by 10 is we just move the decimal once, right? 10% is 1/10. So we could say, hey, it's dividing by 10. Just move that decimal over 1. All right.